Let's talk further about the new Mark 8.5 Facelift Golf GTI and the Golf in general, because we've had a little bit more news today. I'm filming this on the 24th of January 2024. And yeah, just to explain a little bit of the touches, it's something that I discussed a few weeks ago, but now it's all been a little bit more revealed. And yeah, as you can see from some of the images I've got here, there's a few little bits of nip and tuck changes, which is certainly worth talking about. I mentioned quite a lot about the infotainment, which has been a little bit more confirmed now, and a few more of the touches and a few more of the sort of subtle optional extras that you can kind of get in this car as well. And, you know, to talk whether or not it's really worth going for as well, I think that's a big thing. You know, I've got a lot of Mark 8 owners on the channel as well, particularly with like Golf Rs and Golf GTIs. You know, is it worth sort of stepping up to the facelift based on all these sort of revised changes? So yeah, hopefully you can see some of the images there. And we'll go through some of the actual, well, what the specifics are. So this is due in the UK anyway in April 2024. Changes just on the lights there, as well as an illuminated VW badge, which I believe was able to come into place because of European legislation or something, got changed from what I've read. And usual sort of GTI touches here. And the big thing actually with the GTI is they've actually upgraded the power, as I just sort of show a little bit of the steering wheel as well. Physical buttons, you know, they sort of replaced the haptic touch sort of ability. Was revised by Volkswagen. They obviously weren't happy with it, or custom feedback wasn't happy with it, and yeah, back to physical buttons for us all. Yeah, and just to chat a little bit more about these changing. So the styling elements have been changed a little bit with sort of like a reprofiled front bumper, which, to be honest with you, I mean, I do like those 5 little lights. That's really cool. I think I saw it back in the day on the Kia Ceed, probably about 10 years ago, and I really liked it. But that was there on the 8. The thinner lights and sort of I think it's got like a light bar now, the indicator, and obviously the illuminated VW badge. Yeah, so a few little changes in that. And they've sort of integrated their new sort of like HD matrix technology with the lights. There's new seals underneath the doors too, as well as more prominent spoiler above the tailgate on the GTI. So prominent spoiler doesn't look that much different, I'm not going to lie. I know you can get obviously the performance pack on the Golf R and it looked certainly more substantial than that. But hey, that's what they're sort of saying here as well. And a restyled rear bumper and new look LED tail lights. So yeah, the tail lights are certainly a little bit smaller and they look more LED. You know, it doesn't look that much different, if I'm honest. It is just a facelift. And from a personal point of view, I often prefer the original sort of take on cars, whether it's sort of like, you know, I talk a lot about, say, the Focus as well, say like the Mark IV Focus, you go to the Mark 4.5, you've got the Mark 7 Golf, you go for the Mark 7.5. Often, sometimes the original is the one that was originally obviously meant to be designed in that way. But it's each their own. And again, I suppose my sort of uptake on that is that you can get better discounts on, say, like a Mark 8, which again sort of comes to my point of like, is this one worth going for? There's a lot more paint colours as well. And they don't discuss specifically about the Golf R, so this is really just around the Golf GTI. The GTI can actually have carbon fibre exterior applications for the first time as well inside the car. And I sort of tried to have a little look inside the cabin to see if I could see anyone on this particular car. And I couldn't really see too much. But if there is any, you know, it's sort of hidden away. And it might be quite similar to the Mark 8 Golf R 20 years, which came with a bit of a carbon fibre interior. I'm not so sure about the exterior stuff. You could always sometimes get carbon fibre mirror caps, but yeah, that's something that's going to change. The Telidar alloy wheel designs has returned, so that was back on for the first time since the Mark 6 version, and they do look nice. Nice wheels, certainly happy with that. I think in that application it's on 18s. I can't work out if that's 18-inch or 19-inch wheels. Probably let me know in the comments as well. Again, this is a community channel, so get involved in the comments on what you kind of think about this, and you know, whether or not this is a car you want to go for, whether or not you'd stick with the Mark 8, or whether or not you potentially go to a competitor. I do a lot of videos on the Focus, for example, the Focus ST and the Mark 4.5 Facelift, and they're obviously the direct rivals. The big thing on that sort of side of things is not really too many pictures of the engine. It's the same EA 888 2-litre, but it's now upped by quite a fair bit, so 261 brake horsepower. But it doesn't sound like they've gone through a different trend, and you know, they did the similar thing in the Mark 7 to the Mark 7.5. So I mean, yeah, it's nice to have a little bit more power, but just for reference, the Focus ST has 280 and has some for quite some time. So yeah, more power though than the Mark 8, so that's great. And you know, there's still going to be apparently a Club Sport version with 300 horsepower, and I don't see why there's not going to be an R version as well, just because it kind of makes sense. They also said kind of like obviously the upgraded infotainment system, which I spoke about quite a lot in my last video, and just to make things a lot more simple to use, or you know, big massive screen. I mean, yeah, I mean that's just like I mean, you might as well be sitting in your office really, and yeah, I'm personally not a big fan of loads and loads of screens, but you know, I guess that's the future which a lot of manufacturers are going down. I think the backlit sort of like touch or slider scrolls is quite important that they've now got, and the manual sort of dials as well. So yeah, a few things sort of improved on that front. Personally, for me, it feels too imposing, but I'd have to see it in person, have to sit in it in person and see what see what it's all about. I do know people in the industry who spent time in this car. So they spent time in it last year. It was obviously a bit more NDA than it is now, and they liked it. So you know, they felt it improved a lot of the problems, and I'll take their word for it because they obviously know their stuff, which is great. And they mentioned high quality materials throughout the cabin to help lift the perceived quality. So again, that's going to be subjective, and you know, just going to have to see what that one's all about. Yeah, the main thing is the infotainment called MIB4, and that has already been rolled out on Tiguan, Passat, ID3, ID7. So now it's going to the Golf. So the big thing for me, being a bit of an IT guy, quicker processing times, that's really important. And you can get it in 10.4 inch or 12.9 inch with Chat GPT powered voice assistants, and you can control things like the air conditioning, navigation system, and all of that. And essentially the main sort of stuff as well, and said in reaction to criticism of the outgoing Golf's poor ergonomics, the touch slider for the temperature and volume control below the infotainment screen has now been revised, so it's now backlit, and new software provides it with speedier reactions. You also get a 360-degree camera, park assist, pro systems for the first time on the Golf. All the cars are sort of, the engine lineup is all 4-cylinder, and they're all sort of front-wheel drive at the moment, but we'll have to see what they do if they bring out an R, which I believe they will. You can get 1.5 petrol litre engines, and you can get mild hybrid ones as well, and you get the 2-litre petrol engines too, with the current range chopper being 262 horsepower for the GTI. No manual available. 0 to 60 is likely to be slightly quicker than 6.2 now as a result, and it's got 155 mile an hour top speed. Now, the thing about no manual and just being the 7-speed DSG is, well, if you want a manual, you would have to get a Mark 8. So that's one thing. I had a quick check on like Auto Trader, and I sort of monitor these kind of things. You can get them in the UK for about just under £25,000 now. So that marks a pretty good deal for me. If you still like your manuals and you want a front wheel drive GTI, that's what you would have to go for. If you just want auto, then the 8.5 isn't going to be the one for you, because they're not offering a manual at all now. So that could be something to sway it. So as a little bit of a summary from me, I guess, you know, would I be going for this? I mean, how I kind of work with cars is, you know, I have a Mark 7. I picked that up when the Mark 7.5 Facelift came out back in 2017. That was my Golf. And I did that because I got a significant discount. You know, my car had only just done over 1,000 miles, and you know, I got £10,000 off the initial list price because the facelift had come out. You can do the same for the Mark 8, and although I've heard that you can't retrofit any of this stuff into a Mark 8 for obvious reasons, you know, it doesn't make sense for Volkswagen to do that or to allow that. Potentially with like the steering wheel, it would be nice to at least change that. Maybe not necessarily obviously all the integration with the screen. Maybe that's something that could be done. But I've also heard from owners actually, and you know, thank you so much for your comments on your previous video, that they've got on fine with the Mark 8. So, you know, I've spent a lot of time in Mark 8s, but you know, obviously people who've lived with it for a few years, it's slightly different. So it's good to get feedback on both sides. So if I was looking for GTI right now and I wanted kind of the latest one, you know, I guess you kind of have to go for this because of all the new technology that it kind of brings. But if you want to save a fair amount of money, like to get a GTI, you know, I think The cheapest one at the moment on Auto Trade is about 24,500, and that's a manual. You can obviously also get the 7-speed DSG as well. Great car. So that's kind of where my kind of summary is. Let me know what you think. Would you go for the facelift? Would you go for the pre-facelift? Or would you potentially go for a competitor like the Focus ST, for example? Big community channel, and get involved in the comments, and I'll happily get involved too as we await to hear more whether or not there'll be a Golf R. I think they will. Or if there's any more sort of impressions on the car, and hopefully I'll get to bring that to you as well, and share it on the channel. And give this video a like and subscribe if you want to see plenty more content to come.